My service medal sits gathering dust on the mantelpiece, a silent witness to a lifetime of sacrifice that my own children have reduced to nothing more than a forgotten relic. They think I can't hear them, but words cut deeper than any battlefield, wound I've ever endured. She's just dead weight now, I heard my daughter Rachel whisper to her husband during our family dinner last Sunday, her voice dripping with a contempt that froze the blood in my veins. My name is Margaret Collins, and I'm a 52-year-old retired Army sergeant who spent 15 years serving my country, including 2 tours in Afghanistan that left more scars than most people could ever imagine. I wasn't just a soldier, I was a communications specialist, a strategic planner, a woman who had navigated through some of the most challenging terrains, both literally and metaphorically. After leaving active duty, I settled back into civilian life in a small suburb of Denver, Colorado, believing that the hardest battles were behind me. My military career wasn't just a job, it was a calling. I had joined straight out of high school, driven by a sense of purpose that ran deeper than most could understand. My parents, working-class folks from a small town in Wyoming, had always struggled to make ends meet. The military offered me a path to education, to purpose, to something greater than the limited horizons of my childhood. I wasn't just serving my country, I was serving my family's future. Those 15 years of service came with tremendous sacrifice. I missed birthdays, holidays, first steps, and countless family moments. Each deployment was a delicate balance of duty and heartache. My daughter Rachel was just 5 when I first deployed, and my son Michael was barely 2. My then-husband, Daniel, promised to keep our family together, to ensure our children understood the importance of my service. But promises, I've learned, are often as fragile as the radio communications I used to manage in the field. After retiring, I believed my greatest mission would be reconnecting with my family, making up for the lost years. I had saved meticulously, invested wisely, and secured a comfortable pension that allowed me to be present in ways I couldn't be during my military years. My military background had taught me discipline, strategic planning, and resilience, skills I thought would translate perfectly into civilian family life. The first few years after retirement were a careful dance of reintegration. I took classes in counseling, understanding the unique challenges veterans face when returning home. I volunteered at local veteran support groups, helping other service members navigate the complex terrain of post-military life. My children seemed proud, often introducing me as their veteran mom during family gatherings and local community events. But something had been changing slowly, imperceptibly. The respect I thought I had earned seemed to be morphing into something else, a kind of patronizing tolerance. Rachel, now a successful marketing executive, would often make subtle comments about my old-fashioned ways. Michael, working as a software engineer, seemed increasingly distant, his conversations reduced to polite but perfunctory check-ins. My daughter had 2 children of her own now, Emma, who was 10, and Jack, who was 7. I had hoped to be the kind of grandmother who could share stories of resilience, of service, of finding strength in the most challenging circumstances. But increasingly, I found myself pushed to the margins of their lives, my experiences seemingly irrelevant in their fast-paced, technology-driven world. Financial independence had always been my priority. My military pension, combined with careful investments and a small consulting work I did for veteran transition programs, meant I was far from a financial burden. I contributed to family expenses, helped with the grandchildren's education funds, and always made sure I was more of a support than a liability. Yet something was changing. The whispered conversations, the subtle eye rolls, the way Rachel would quickly change the subject when I started talking about my military experiences. They all pointed to a growing disconnect. I wasn't naive. I understood that the world had changed, that my generation's experiences were increasingly seen as relics of a different time. But dead weight? The words echoed in my mind, a sharp, unexpected assault that brought back memories of some of the most challenging moments of my military career. I had faced insurgents, navigated complex communication networks under extreme pressure, supported missions that required split-second decisions with lives hanging in the balance. And now, in the supposed safety of my family home, I felt more under attack than I ever had in any combat zone. That Sunday dinner, with its casual cruelty, became a turning point. Something inside me, the same something that had helped me survive 2 combat tours, that had helped me break through gender barriers in a male-dominated military environment, began to stir. A plan was forming, not of revenge, but of reclamation. If they saw me as dead weight, I would show them exactly what a veteran is capable of. Little did my family know, but the strategic mind that had served my country was about to be deployed, in a mission more personal than any I had ever undertaken. And this mission would change everything. The family dynamics had been slowly unraveling long before that fateful Sunday dinner. My relationship with Rachel and Michael had become a delicate tapestry of unspoken tensions, polite surfaces masking deep-seated resentments that had been brewing for years. Rachel had always been the ambitious one, driven in ways that both impressed and worried me. From a young age, she displayed a laser-focused determination that reminded me of myself during my military planning sessions, but where my determination came from a place of service and collective purpose, hers seemed rooted in a relentless pursuit of personal success. Her marketing career was a testament to this. She climbed corporate ladders with a precision that would have made any military strategist proud. Michael, my son, had taken a different path. Quiet, introspective, he had always been more interested in the world of technology than the world of service. I remembered the countless times I tried to share my military experiences, only to be met with his polite but disinterested nods. He listened, but he never truly heard. To him, my stories were ancient history, irrelevant in his fast-paced digital world. My ex-husband Daniel had been the first fracture point. Our divorce, which came shortly after my second tour, was a complicated affair. The military life had strained our marriage. Long deployments, constant relocations, the psychological toll of service. When I returned from Afghanistan for the last time, something had fundamentally changed. Daniel couldn't understand the woman I had become, hardened yet vulnerable, strong yet deeply wounded. The children were teenagers then, caught in the crossfire of our dissolving marriage. Rachel, always protective of her father, saw me as the disruptive force. Michael remained silent, retreating into his emerging technological world. I tried to explain, to bridge the gaps, but military discipline doesn't always translate well to family communication. Financial support became my primary way of maintaining connection. I paid for Michael's college education, funded Rachel's first business venture, helped with down payments for their homes. Each check was a silent apology, a desperate attempt to prove my love, my continued commitment to their lives. But money, I was learning, can never buy genuine connection. Holidays became performative exercises in forced warmth. Thanksgiving and Christmas were carefully choreographed events where everyone played their designated roles. Rachel would prepare elaborate meals, Michael would bring the latest tech gadgets, the grandchildren would be perfectly dressed. And I would sit, watching, feeling increasingly like a supporting actor in a play about my own family. My grandchildren, Emma and Jack, were the only bright spots. They hadn't yet learned the art of polite dismissal. Emma would listen to my stories with wide-eyed wonder, asking questions about my military experiences. Jack would show me his latest video game, explaining complex strategies that reminded me of military tactical planning. But even these moments were becoming rare. Rachel would often interrupt, redirecting conversations, subtly suggesting that my experiences were too intense, too complicated for young minds. "Mom, not another war story," she would say, her smile tight, her eyes warning. The volunteer work I did with veteran support groups became my lifeline. There, I found a community that understood the complex landscape of post-military life. Veterans, who, like me, were navigating the challenging transition from military precision to civilian unpredictability. We shared stories, supported each other, created the family bonds that sometimes eluded us in our biological families. My military pension and careful investments meant I was financially independent. I owned my small townhouse, had a reliable car, maintained a modest but comfortable lifestyle. I wasn't a burden, a fact I reminded myself of constantly when the whispers of dead weight began to infiltrate my consciousness. Rachel's marketing career had taken off, her agency becoming one of the most successful in Denver. Michael had founded a tech startup that was gaining significant attention. On the surface, they were the epitome of successful modern professionals, and I was supposed to be proud, to sit back and admire their achievements. But something was missing. The connection, the genuine emotional intimacy that I had fought so hard to preserve, was evaporating like morning mist. Each carefully planned family dinner, each obligatory weekend visit, felt more like a diplomatic mission than a genuine family gathering. The whispered dead weight comment was just the culmination of years of gradual emotional distancing. It wasn't a sudden revelation, but the final confirmation of a process that had been ongoing for years. My military training had prepared me for many things: combat, strategic planning, survival in harsh conditions. But it had never prepared me for the battlefield of family dynamics. Little did they know, the same strategic mind that had navigated complex military operations was about to be deployed in a mission more personal, more challenging than any I had ever undertaken. And this mission would redefine everything they thought they knew about their mother, about family, about strength. The signs had been there for months, perhaps even years, but I had been deliberately overlooking them. Like a reconnaissance mission, where you choose to ignore peripheral movements, I had been selectively blind to the subtle erosions of respect and genuine connection. It started with small things. The way Rachel would schedule family gatherings around her convenience, never truly consulting me. Her calls became shorter, more perfunctory. "Just checking in," she would say, her voice already distant, her mind clearly elsewhere. Michael's interactions were even more calculated. Periodic text messages that felt like obligatory check-ins rather than genuine attempts at connection. I began to notice the financial manipulations first. Despite my consistent financial support, there was never genuine gratitude. When I helped Michael with his startup's initial funding, the acknowledgement was minimal. A quick "thanks, Mom," followed by detailed discussions about how he would pay me back, as if my support was a business transaction rather than an act of maternal love. Rachel's situation was more complex. Her marketing agency was successful, but she constantly complained about financial pressures. I would receive carefully crafted messages detailing the children's educational needs, subtle hints about mounting expenses. Each communication was a masterclass in emotional manipulation, designed to trigger my protective instincts. The grandchildren became unwitting pawns in this intricate game. Emma and Jack would occasionally let slip comments that made my heart sink. "Mommy says you're retired and have lots of money," Jack once remarked casually during a visit. The way he said it, like I was a walking ATM rather than a grandmother, spoke volumes about the narrative being constructed around me. My veteran support network became my sanctuary of truth. Sarah, a fellow veteran who had become a close confidant, was the first to suggest I look closer. "Marge," she would say during our monthly coffee meetups, "sometimes family can be more strategic in their emotional warfare than any enemy you face downrange." I started documenting everything. Not out of paranoia, but with the same meticulous attention to detail I had employed during my military intelligence work. Bank statements, text message threads, conversation patterns. I began to see a disturbing pattern emerge. My financial contributions were being taken for granted, discussed behind my back as if I were some distant benefactor rather than a mother. The most telling moment came during a family dinner at Rachel's new suburban home. A massive renovation was underway. Marble countertops, smart home systems, landscaping that looked like it cost more than my entire yearly pension. When I casually asked about the expenses, Rachel deflected smoothly. "Oh, we're managing," she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Later that evening, while helping clean up, I overheard a conversation between Rachel and her husband Tom. "Mom's pension is basically our safety net," Tom said matter-of-factly. "She'll always bail us out." The casual entitlement in his voice was like a knife twist. My military training had always been about strategic assessment. Recognize the terrain, identify potential threats, develop a comprehensive understanding before taking action. And now, I was applying those same skills to my own family dynamics. The financial exploitation was just the surface. The deeper betrayal was emotional. My years of service, my sacrifices, my love, all reduced to a monetary transaction. Every birthday card, every holiday gift, every moment of supposed family connection was being filtered through a lens of financial calculation. Michael's startup, I discovered, had been partially funded through subtle manipulations of my generosity. Funding rounds that seemed legitimate on the surface were actually elaborate schemes to funnel my support into his personal ventures. When I began asking detailed questions, the conversations became increasingly evasive. The veteran community became my intelligence network. Subtle conversations, shared experiences, careful observations. We understood the art of gathering information. Sarah, with her background in military intelligence, helped me see the patterns I was missing. "They're treating you like a resource to be managed, not a family member to be loved," she observed during one of our strategic planning sessions. I remembered my combat training, how we would identify enemy strategies, understand their motivations, map out their potential moves. Now, I was applying those same skills to my family. Every interaction became a data point, every conversation a potential source of intelligence. The most painful realization was the complete erosion of emotional connection. My military service had been about sacrifice, about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. Now, I was facing a different kind of battlefield, one where love had been replaced by calculated self-interest. But soldiers don't surrender. We adapt. We strategize. We find a way forward, and I was just beginning to formulate my plan. The pivotal moment came on a crisp autumn afternoon, the kind of day that reminded me of strategic planning sessions in military briefing rooms. I had been invited to a family lunch at an upscale restaurant in downtown Denver, ostensibly to discuss Emma's upcoming school fundraiser. Rachel had been particularly insistent, her voice unusually sweet when she called to confirm my attendance. I arrived early, my military precision still intact. The restaurant was one of those trendy establishments Rachel loved, all minimalist design and overpriced small plates. I chose a table near the window, positioning myself with a clear view of the entrance, an old habit from years of tactical training. When Rachel and Tom arrived, something felt off immediately. Tom was uncharacteristically nervous, his hands fidgeting with his phone. Rachel's smile was too bright, too calculated. The conversation began with forced pleasantries about Emma's school and Michael's latest tech project. But underneath the surface, tension crackled like static on a radio frequency. It was a text message that changed everything. Tom's phone buzzed, and in that split second of distraction, I caught a glimpse of a message that made my blood run cold. Everything set for the meeting with the financial advisor? The message was from Michael, sent just moments before they arrived. My military intelligence training kicked in, years of gathering information, of reading between the lines, of understanding. What wasn't being said? All of it converged in that moment. I maintained my composure, years of combat training allowing me to keep my expression neutral. But internally, every alarm was blaring. As lunch progressed, I began to piece together a disturbing puzzle. Casual comments, carefully worded statements, the way Tom and Rachel exchanged quick glances. It was clear something was happening behind the scenes. When the conversation turned to my finances, the true nature of their plan began to emerge. "Mom," Rachel said, her voice dripping with forced concern, "we've been thinking about your financial future. Tom knows this amazing financial advisor who can help consolidate your investments." The word consolidate hung in the air like a warning flag. I remembered Sarah's words from our veteran support group. "Always watch for the language of manipulation," she had told me, and here it was, laid out like a tactical map of deceit. Later that evening, I contacted my longtime friend and fellow veteran, Susan Martinez, who worked in forensic accounting. Susan had a network of connections that would make most intelligence agencies jealous. Over a secure video call, I shared my suspicions. "They're trying to gain control of your finances," Susan said after carefully reviewing the information I had gathered. "It looks like they're planning to shift your assets, potentially setting up a situation where they can control your financial decisions." The pieces began to fall into place. The subtle comments about my financial management, the sudden interest in my investments, the carefully orchestrated family gatherings, it was all part of a calculated plan. My children weren't just seeing me as dead weight. They were actively planning to leverage my financial resources for their own benefit. I thought back to my years of service. I had protected entire communities, managed critical communication networks under extreme pressure. I had survived 2 combat tours, navigated complex geopolitical landscapes. And now, my own children were attempting to wage a financial war against me. The most painful revelation came from a series of documents I discovered while organizing my personal files. Bank statements, investment proposals, carefully drafted documents that suggested a comprehensive plan to slowly transfer control of my assets. Each page was a betrayal more calculated than the last. I remembered the young soldiers I had served with, their unwavering loyalty, their commitment to something greater than themselves. And here were my own children, reducing our relationship to a financial transaction. But a veteran doesn't break. A veteran adapts. A veteran fights back. I began to methodically gather evidence. Phone records, text messages, financial documents. I collected everything with the same precision I had once used to plan military operations. Each piece of information was a weapon, each document a potential strategic advantage. Susan helped me understand the legal implications. "They're walking a fine line," she explained during one of our encrypted calls. "But there are laws protecting seniors from financial exploitation, and your military service provides additional protections." The more I discovered, the clearer my path became. This wasn't just about money. This was about respect, about the dignity of a veteran who had sacrificed everything for her country and her family. I thought about the young soldier I had been, fearless, committed, willing to face any challenge. That soldier was still inside me, and she was about to wage the most important mission of her life. The battle for my dignity had just begun. The first night after discovering the full extent of my children's betrayal, I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat in my home office, surrounded by decades of memories, military commendations, family photographs, personal documents that now seemed to mock the very concept of family loyalty. The darkness outside mirrored the tumultuous storm raging inside me. Grief came first. A profound, all-consuming sadness that felt like a physical weight pressing against my chest. I thought about the years of sacrifice, missed birthdays, holidays, spent in combat zones, the endless nights of worry my own mother had endured while I served. I had believed I was breaking a cycle of emotional distance, creating a different kind of family legacy. Instead, I had apparently failed spectacularly. The photographs on my wall became accusatory witnesses. There was a picture from Michael's college graduation, where I stood proudly, having funded every penny of his education. Another from Rachel's wedding, where I had written a check that covered half the wedding expenses. Each image was a testament to my unconditional love, now reframed as naive generosity. Military training teaches you to compartmentalize emotions, feel them, acknowledge them, but don't let them consume you. But this was different. This was a wound deeper than any I had sustained in combat. These weren't enemy combatants. These were my children, the same children I had nursed, protected, sacrificed everything to raise. Anger followed grief like a secondary explosion. It started as a low simmer, a controlled burn that gradually intensified. I remembered the discipline of my military days, how we would channel rage into strategic action. My hands, which had once managed complex communication networks under extreme pressure, now clenched and unclenched with a barely contained fury. The veteran support group became my lifeline during those first brutal days. Sarah, who had been through her own family challenges, listened without judgment during our late-night phone calls. "They've weaponized your love," she said during one conversation, "but a weapon can always be reclaimed." I began to document everything, with the same meticulous attention I had used during my military intelligence work. Bank statements, text messages, conversation recordings. Each piece of evidence was carefully cataloged. This wasn't revenge. This was preservation of truth. My military pension, the money I had carefully saved and invested, represented more than just financial security. It was a symbol of my service, of the years I had dedicated to protecting others. The idea that my own children saw me as nothing more than a financial resource was a betrayal that cut deeper than any battlefield wound. Loneliness crept in during the quiet moments. The house, which had always been a sanctuary, now felt like enemy territory. I thought about the soldiers I had served with, the unbreakable bonds we had formed in the most challenging circumstances. Why was family so much more complicated than military brotherhood? Susan, my forensic accountant friend, became a crucial ally. "Emotional responses are natural," she told me during one of our strategy sessions. "But right now, we need to build an ironclad case." Her military background in intelligence meant she understood the importance of careful, methodical preparation. The veteran community became my support network. These were people who understood sacrifice, who knew what it meant to fight for something greater than themselves. They helped me see beyond the immediate pain, to understand that this was a battle for something more important than money. It was a battle for dignity. I thought about the young soldiers I had led, their resilience, their ability to find hope in the most challenging circumstances. If they could maintain hope in war zones, I could certainly find strength in this personal battle. My military training had always been about adaptability, about finding strategic solutions in impossible situations. This was no different. This was a mission, perhaps the most personal mission I had ever undertaken. The pain transformed. It wasn't a weakness to be hidden, but a source of strength to be channeled. I remembered my combat training, how we would take a moment of vulnerability and turn it into a tactical advantage. My children had underestimated me. They saw an aging veteran. They didn't see a strategic mastermind who had navigated far more complex terrains. I began to draft my plan. Not a plan of revenge, but a plan of strategic reclamation. Each document, each piece of evidence was a weapon. Each memory of my service was a reminder of my strength. I was a veteran. I had faced far worse than family betrayal. The first light of dawn broke through my office window. The darkness was giving way to light, just as my pain was giving way to resolve. They thought they knew me. They thought they could reduce me to dead weight. They were about to learn exactly who Margaret Collins truly was. The war room of my mind was meticulously organized. Just as I had planned complex military communication strategies during my service, I now began to map out a comprehensive plan to protect my dignity, my financial independence, and ultimately, my legacy. My first strategic move was to assemble a team of trusted allies. Susan Martinez, with her forensic accounting expertise, became my primary intelligence officer. Sarah Thompson from the Veteran Support Network would provide emotional support and strategic guidance. Karen Lewis, a retired lawyer specializing in elder protection and veterans' rights, would be my legal strategist. We began our operation with a comprehensive financial audit. Susan's forensic skills were unparalleled. She combed through every bank statement, investment record, and financial transaction with the precision of a bomb disposal expert. Each document was a potential piece of evidence, each transaction a clue to the larger conspiracy. The initial findings were shocking. Michael's startup had been receiving subtle financial injections that traced back to my accounts, transfers, disguised as consulting fees or family investments. Rachel's home renovation and her children's expensive private school tuition had similar financial fingerprints. It wasn't just about potential future control. They had already been siphoning my resources. Karen helped me understand the legal landscape. Financial exploitation of veterans is a serious crime, she explained during one of our strategy sessions. Your military service provides additional layers of protection. We're not just fighting a family battle, we're protecting veterans' rights. Began documenting everything with military precision. A dedicated hard drive, encrypted and secured, became my evidence repository. Voice recordings, text message screenshots, bank statements. Each piece of information was carefully cataloged and backed up. I remembered my military intelligence. Training. Documentation is power. The Veteran Support Network became my reconnaissance team. Subtle conversations, careful observations, shared experiences. We understood the art of gathering intelligence. Sarah's connections proved invaluable. She knew veterans working in various professional fields, law enforcement, legal services, financial institutions, who could provide insights and support. My approach was multi-layered. While gathering evidence, I also needed to protect my current financial stability. I worked with Susan to gradually restructure my investments, creating additional layers of protection. Trusts were established, account access was modified, financial firewalls were erected. The psychological warfare was equally important. I needed to appear completely normal to my children. Every family gathering became an intelligence-gathering mission. I listened, observed, noted every subtle interaction. Rachel's conversations with her husband, Michael's discussions about his business, each became a potential source of information. Technology became a crucial ally. I took classes to understand advanced digital security, learning how to protect my communications and financial information. My age was not a limitation, it was an asset. Years of military adaptability meant I could learn and master new skills quickly. Karen helped me understand the legal protections available to veterans. We began preparing documentation that would protect me from potential financial manipulation. Power of attorney documents were carefully drafted, ensuring that my financial decisions remained entirely my own. The veteran community became my support network. Monthly meetings transformed into strategic planning sessions. Veterans who had faced similar family challenges shared their experiences, their strategies. We were more than just a support group. We were a tactical response unit. I began preparing for multiple scenarios. What if Michael tried to challenge my financial independence? What if Rachel attempted to gain legal control of my assets? Each potential move was carefully anticipated, each potential counteraction planned. My home office transformed into a command center, walls covered with carefully organized documents, digital security measures implemented, communication channels secured. This was more than just protecting my finances. This was protecting my entire life's work. The psychological preparation was equally crucial. I worked with a therapist specializing in veteran mental health, ensuring that my emotional responses remained balanced and strategic. This wasn't about revenge. This was about reclaiming my dignity, my independence. Susan's forensic work revealed more than just financial irregularities. We discovered patterns of manipulation that went beyond simple financial exploitation. Text message threads, email communications, a comprehensive picture of calculated family betrayal emerged. I reached out to Emma and Jack, my grandchildren, carefully and strategically, not to turn them against their parents, but to maintain a connection to ensure they understood their grandmother's true nature. Every interaction was a delicate balance of love and strategic communication. The Veteran Support Network provided more than just emotional support. Connections were made, resources shared. We understood that individual battles were part of a larger war, a war against the systemic undervaluation of veterans' contributions. As weeks turned into months, my plan took shape. Each piece of evidence, each strategic decision was carefully considered. I was no longer just a victim. I was becoming a strategic commander of my own life. My children had thought they could reduce me to dead weight. They were about to learn the true meaning of a veteran's resilience. The veteran community became my sanctuary of truth, a network more reliable than any familial connection I had known. Our monthly meeting at the Denver Veterans Support Center took on a new meaning, no longer just a support group, but a strategic alliance of resilience and wisdom. Sarah Thompson, a former Marine who had battled her own family challenges, became my closest confidant. Her office, lined with military commendations and photographs from her service, felt more like a war room than a counseling space. Family can be the most unpredictable battlefield, she would often say, her eyes holding the kind of wisdom that could only come from surviving multiple wars, both external and internal. I began reaching out to unexpected allies. David Rodriguez, a retired federal investigator who volunteered at the Veteran Support Center, offered insights into navigating complex family legal challenges. His connections proved invaluable, a network of professionals who understood the unique challenges veterans face in their post-service lives. The local veteran legal aid became my primary resource. Karen Lewis, the attorney specializing in veteran protection, introduced me to a comprehensive support system I had never fully appreciated before. We discovered layers of legal protections specifically designed for veterans, protections my children had either ignored or were unaware existed. My military records became a crucial asset. Each commendation, each service document was more than just a piece of paper. It was a testament to my lifetime of service. Susan helped me compile a comprehensive dossier, documenting not just my military achievements, but the continued contributions I had made to veteran support communities. The psychological support was equally critical. Dr. Elena Martinez, a psychologist, specializing in veteran mental health, became an unexpected ally. Our sessions were more strategic planning meetings than traditional therapy. Your strength isn't just in your past service, she would tell me. It's in your ability to adapt, to strategize, to overcome. I began documenting the support network I was building. Each contact, each conversation became a potential resource. The veteran community operates like an intricate communication network, information shared, support provided, strategies developed collectively. Emma and Jack became an unexpected source of hope. During carefully arranged visits, I would share stories of service, of resilience, of true family values. Not to turn them against their parents, but to ensure they understood the deeper meaning of family and sacrifice. My volunteer work with veteran support programs took on new significance. Each week at the community center, I found more allies, more sources of strength. Veterans who had faced similar family challenges shared their stories, not as victims, but as survivors. Karen began preparing a comprehensive legal strategy. Financial. Exploitation of veterans is a serious issue, often hidden beneath the surface of family dynamics. We gathered documentation, built a case that went beyond personal conflict. This was about protecting veteran rights. The local veteran advocacy group became my extended family. Monthly meetings transformed into strategic planning sessions. We shared resources, legal insights, emotional support. This wasn't just about my individual battle. It was about challenging a systemic issue of veteran marginalization. Susan's forensic accounting skills became increasingly crucial. We weren't just gathering evidence, we were building a comprehensive understanding of the financial manipulation my children had orchestrated. Each bank statement, each financial transaction told a story of calculated betrayal. I reached out to my former military colleagues, creating a network of support that spanned decades. Colonel James Harper, who had served with me during my most challenging deployments, offered both emotional support and strategic advice. "A mission isn't over until you've achieved your objective," he would remind me, his voice bringing back memories of our most challenging operations. The support wasn't just practical, it was deeply emotional. These were people who understood sacrifice, who knew the true meaning of service. They saw me not as a victim, but as a fellow soldier fighting a different kind of battle. Dr. Martinez helped me process the emotional complexity of the situation. "Your children's actions are a reflection of their own limitations," she would say, "not a measure of your worth." Each session was a careful deconstruction of familial dynamics, a strategic approach to emotional healing. I began writing, not just for documentation, but as a form of therapeutic strategy. Journals filled with detailed accounts, emotional reflections, strategic plans. Each page was a step towards reclaiming my narrative, my dignity. The veteran legal aid helped me understand the full extent of my protections. Laws specifically designed to protect veterans from financial exploitation became our primary weapon. We weren't just fighting a family battle. We were challenging a broader system that often overlooked veteran contributions. As months passed, my support network grew stronger. What had begun as a personal crisis transformed into a collective mission. Each veteran, each ally became a source of strength, of strategic support. My children had thought they could reduce me to dead weight. They were about to learn the true meaning of veteran resilience. The battle was just beginning. The dining room of my modest Denver home transformed into a war room. Walls covered with carefully organized documents, digital tablets displaying financial records, encrypted communication devices strategically placed. This was not just a preparation for confrontation. This was a comprehensive strategic operation. Karen Lewis arrived early that morning, her legal briefcase a testament to meticulous preparation. "We need to be 3 steps ahead," she explained, spreading out a series of legal documents across my mahogany dining table. Each document was a potential weapon, carefully crafted to protect my rights and expose my children's financial manipulations. Susan Martinez brought her forensic accounting expertise, her fingers dancing across a laptop that contained months of detailed financial investigations. Bank transfers, hidden transactions, subtle financial maneuvers. Each piece of evidence was a carefully assembled puzzle that told a story of calculated betrayal. I had learned from my military intelligence training that the most successful operations are those where you control the environment, anticipate every possible scenario. We spent weeks developing multiple contingency plans. What if Michael attempted to challenge my financial independence? What strategies would Rachel potentially employ? Each potential move was carefully mapped out, each potential counteraction, planned with surgical precision. The Veteran Support Network became my intelligence gathering team. Sarah Thompson used her extensive connections to gather additional background information. David Rodriguez, with his federal investigative experience, helped me understand the psychological tactics my children might employ. Technology became our most powerful ally. I had taken advanced digital security courses, learning how to protect my communications and financial information. My age was not a limitation, it was an asset. Years of military adaptability meant I could master new skills quickly, staying one step ahead of my children's potential strategies. Dr. Elena Martinez helped me prepare emotionally. Our sessions were strategic planning meetings disguised as therapy. This isn't about winning or losing, she would remind me. This is about reclaiming your dignity, your narrative. Each session was a careful deconstruction of potential emotional manipulations, a strategic approach to maintaining psychological resilience. We identified the critical weak points in my children's potential defense. Michael's startup had financial vulnerabilities that could be exposed. Rachel's marketing business had compliance issues that could be strategically leveraged. Each potential avenue of attack was carefully mapped out. Each potential defense neutralized before it could be deployed. The timing was crucial. We chose a family gathering as our primary confrontation point, Thanksgiving, a day supposedly about gratitude and family connection. The irony was not lost on any of us. My children had turned family gatherings into performative exercises of emotional manipulation. Now, we would use their own strategy against them. Emma and Jack, my grandchildren, became an unexpected source of strategic insight. During carefully arranged visits, I would observe their interactions, gather subtle intelligence about family dynamics, not to turn them against their parents, but to understand the full complexity of the situation. Karen prepared a comprehensive legal strategy that went beyond my individual case. We were building a framework that could potentially help other veterans facing similar family challenges. This was more than a personal battle. This was about challenging a systemic issue of veteran marginalization. Voice recordings, text message, archives, financial documents. Each piece of evidence was carefully cataloged, encrypted, and backed up. Multiple copies existed in secure locations, ensuring that no potential manipulation could erase our carefully gathered proof. The veteran community became my strategic support network. Monthly meetings transformed into intensive planning sessions. Veterans who had faced similar family challenges shared their experiences, their strategies. We were more than a support group. We were a tactical response unit. I began preparing my personal presentation carefully, not an emotional outburst, but a calculated exposure of truth. Each statement would be measured. Each piece of evidence presented with the same precision I had once used in military briefings. This was a mission of strategic communication. Susan's forensic work revealed intricate financial manipulations that went far beyond simple exploitation. Text message threads, email communications, a comprehensive picture of calculated family betrayal emerged. We were prepared to expose every detail, every subtle maneuver. The psychological preparation was equally crucial. I worked with my support team to anticipate every potential emotional manipulation. How would Rachel attempt to deflect? What strategies might Michael employ to minimize their actions? Each potential scenario was carefully analyzed, each potential response strategically planned. Dr. Martinez helped me understand the deeper psychological dynamics at play. This isn't just about money, she would remind me. This is about respect, about recognition of your entire life's contribution. Her insights helped me approach the confrontation not from a place of anger, but from a position of calm, strategic strength. I remembered my military training, how we would prepare for the most complex missions. Intelligence gathering, strategic, planning, psychological preparation. This was no different. This was a mission to reclaim my dignity, my narrative, my very identity. My children had thought they could reduce me to dead weight. They were about to learn the true meaning of a veteran's strategic resilience. The confrontation was coming. Thanksgiving Day arrived with a crisp Denver morning, the autumn light filtering through my dining room windows like a spotlight on an impending performance. Every detail had been meticulously planned: the table settings, the seating arrangements, the carefully prepared documentation. This was not just a family gathering. This was a strategic mission of confrontation. Rachel arrived first, her designer, coat draped carefully over her arm, a forced smile plastered across her face. Michael followed shortly after, his tech executive demeanor a thin veneer over underlying tension. Tom, Rachel's husband, looked distinctly uncomfortable, his eyes darting around the room like a soldier sensing an ambush. I had positioned myself at the head of the table, flanked by Karen Lewis and Susan Martinez, my legal and financial strategists, who sat discreetly to the side. Emma and Jack, my grandchildren, were seated nearby, their innocence a stark contrast to the brewing confrontation. "Before we begin our meal," I started, my voice calm and steady, "I'd like to have a conversation." The room fell silent. Rachel's smile flickered, Michael's posture stiffened. I pulled out a meticulously organized folder, placing it deliberately in the center of the table. Susan began presenting the financial evidence with surgical precision. Bank statements, transfer records, investment documents, each piece told a story of calculated financial manipulation. Michael's startup had been receiving subtle financial injections that traced directly back to my accounts. Rachel's home renovations, her children's private school tuition, all funded through carefully disguised transfers. "These aren't accusations," Karen interjected, her legal expertise cutting through the tension. "These are documented facts of financial exploitation of a veteran, a serious legal violation." The room transformed. What had begun as a family Thanksgiving meal became a forensic hearing. Michael attempted to interrupt, his tech executive confidence crumbling. "Mom, this is ridiculous," he stammered. But the evidence spoke louder than his protests. Rachel's facade cracked first. "You're trying to destroy our family," she hissed, her carefully maintained composure dissolving. But Karen was prepared. "Actually, the documentation suggests you've been systematically exploiting your mother's financial resources. We have clear evidence of potential legal violations." Tom sat silent, the weight of exposure pressing down on him. Emma and Jack watched, confused but sensing the gravity of the moment. I had been careful. This wasn't about turning the children against their parents, but about exposing the truth. Susan laid out additional evidence: text messages, voice recordings, a comprehensive archive of conversations that revealed the calculated nature of their financial manipulation. Each piece of evidence was presented with the same precision I had once used in military intelligence briefings. "You thought I was dead weight," I said, my voice low and steady. "But a lifetime of service teaches you something about resilience, about strategic planning." The room fell silent. Michael's startup began to unravel under scrutiny. Financial irregularities that had been carefully hidden now came to light. Rachel's marketing agency faced potential compliance investigations. The carefully constructed facade of successful professionals began to crumble. The Veteran Support Network had prepared me for this moment. Sarah's coaching, David's investigative insights, the collective wisdom of veterans who had faced similar family betrayals, all of it converged in this singular moment of confrontation. Dr. Elena Martinez's psychological preparation became evident. I wasn't approaching this with anger, but with a calm, strategic clarity. This wasn't about revenge. This was about reclaiming dignity, about exposing truth. Karen presented the legal implications: potential charges of financial exploitation, violation of veteran protection laws, misuse of familial financial resources. Michael and Rachel exchanged panicked glances. This was far beyond a family argument. This was a legal reckoning. Emma, my granddaughter, looked up. "Grandma," she said softly, "what's happening?" In that moment, the innocence of a child cut through the tension. I realized this was about more than just financial exploitation. This was about preserving family integrity, about showing a different path. Susan continued presenting evidence, each document a precise strike against their manipulations. Bank transfers, hidden investments, subtle financial maneuvers, all carefully documented, all now exposed. Tom broke first. "We never meant," he started, then stopped. The weight of exposure was too much. Rachel's carefully maintained composure shattered. Michael's tech executive confidence crumbled. "I raised you to understand the value of service," I said, my voice cutting through their protests. "Not just military service, but service to family, to community. Somewhere along the way, you forgot that." The confrontation wasn't just about money. It was about respect, about recognition, about the true meaning of family. My children had thought they could reduce me to dead weight. They were about to learn the true meaning of a veteran's strength. The days following the Thanksgiving confrontation were a hurricane of legal proceedings, family upheaval, and profound personal transformation. What had begun as a family gathering had become a watershed moment that would redefine our entire family dynamic. Michael's tech startup began to unravel almost immediately. The financial irregularities we had exposed caught the attention of both internal audit committees and external regulatory bodies. Investors started pulling back, sensing the potential legal complications. His carefully constructed professional facade began to crumble like a house of cards. Rachel's marketing agency faced its own reckoning. The documented financial manipulations and potential compliance issues triggered a comprehensive investigation. Clients began to distance themselves, sensing the toxic undercurrent of her professional and personal conduct. The network of professional relationships she had so carefully cultivated started to disintegrate. The Veteran Support Network became my primary source of strength during these tumultuous weeks. Sarah Thompson and David Rodriguez helped me navigate the complex emotional and legal landscape. They understood that this was more than just a family dispute. This was a battle for dignity, for recognition of veterans' rights. Legal proceedings moved with surprising speed. Karen Lewis worked tirelessly, presenting our carefully compiled evidence to various authorities. The documentation of financial exploitation, the systematic manipulation of my resources, created a compelling case that went far beyond a simple family disagreement. Emma and Jack became unexpected sources of hope. Despite the family turmoil, their innocence and genuine love provided a beacon of light. During carefully managed visits, I would share stories of service, of resilience, of true family values, not to turn them against their parents, but to ensure they understood the deeper meaning of integrity and respect. Tom, Rachel's husband, was the first to seek a separate peace. He approached me weeks after the confrontation, looking defeated and exhausted. "I never meant for things to go this far," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I listened, not with anger, but with the same strategic calm I had maintained throughout our confrontation. The local veteran community rallied around me in ways I could never have anticipated. Veterans who had faced similar family challenges shared their stories, offered support, created a network of understanding that transcended biological family ties. We were more than just support groups. We were a chosen family built on mutual respect and shared experiences. Michael's attempts to negotiate or minimize the situation fell flat. The evidence was irrefutable, the legal implications too significant to brush aside. His once confident demeanor crumbled under the weight of exposure. The tech world he had so carefully cultivated began to view him differently, not as a successful entrepreneur, but as someone who had betrayed his own mother. Rachel's response was a mixture of rage and desperation. She attempted to paint me as the villain, to turn family and friends against me. But the carefully documented evidence spoke louder than her manipulative narratives. The neighborhood, the professional networks, the extended family, they all began to see the truth. Susan Martinez continued her forensic work, uncovering layers of financial manipulation that went beyond what we had initially discovered. Each document, each transaction told a story of calculated betrayal that extended far beyond simple financial exploitation. Dr. Elena Martinez helped me process the emotional complexity of the situation. "This isn't about winning or losing," she would remind me during our sessions. "This is about reclaiming your narrative, your dignity." Her insights helped me maintain a perspective of healing rather than revenge. The legal proceedings became a broader conversation about veteran rights. Karen Lewis transformed our case into a potential landmark discussion about financial exploitation of veterans. What had begun as a personal family dispute was becoming a catalyst for broader societal change. My volunteer work with veteran support programs took on new significance. Each week at the community center, I shared our story, not as a victim, but as a survivor. Other veterans found inspiration, discovered the possibility of standing up against familial manipulation. Emma and Jack became my primary concern. I was determined that the family dispute would not damage their understanding of love, respect, and family values. Through carefully managed interactions, I worked to provide them with a different perspective, one of resilience, integrity, and unconditional love. The financial restructuring was comprehensive. With Susan's help, I reorganized my assets, created protective trusts, and established clear boundaries. My financial independence became not just a personal victory, but a statement of veteran empowerment. Michael's attempts to challenge the financial settlements were systematically dismantled. The evidence was too clear, the legal implications too significant. His professional reputation became collateral damage in his pursuit of financial manipulation. Rachel's social and professional networks began to fragment. The carefully cultivated image of a successful professional crumbled under the weight of documented betrayal. Colleagues, friends, even extended family began to distance themselves. The veteran community became more than just a support network, it became a family. Veterans who had faced similar challenges shared resources, offered support, created a network of understanding that transcended biological family ties. As the legal proceedings progressed, I found a sense of peace I had not expected. This wasn't about punishment. This was about reclaiming my narrative, my dignity, my sense of self. The military had taught me resilience, but this experience had taught me something more profound: the power of standing up for oneself. Tom's eventual testimony proved crucial. His detailed account of the family's financial manipulations provided additional weight to our legal case. He had finally chosen integrity over familial complicity. The local media began to take interest. What had begun as a personal family dispute was becoming a broader conversation about veteran rights, family dynamics, and financial exploitation. Our story became a beacon of hope for other veterans facing similar challenges. Emma and Jack remained my priority. Through careful, loving interactions, I worked to ensure that the family dispute would not damage their understanding of love, respect, and family values. They would learn that family is not about blood, but about integrity, respect, and unconditional love. As the dust began to settle, I realized something profound. The battle was never about the money. It was about dignity, about recognition, about the true meaning of service, not just military service, but service to family, to community, to oneself. My children had thought they could reduce me to dead weight. They had no idea of the true meaning of a veteran's strength. The winter. Following the confrontation brought a transformation more profound than any I had experienced in my military career. Healing became my primary mission, a mission more complex and nuanced than any strategic operation I had ever undertaken. My relationship with Emma and Jack became the most important restoration project. I was determined to break the cycle of emotional manipulation, to show them a different model of family, of love, of respect. Our monthly outings became carefully crafted experiences of genuine connection. We would visit museums, explore local parks, share stories that went beyond the family conflict. The Veteran Support Network transformed into something more than a support group. It became a catalyst for broader change. Sarah Thompson and I began developing a program specifically designed to support veterans facing family challenges. We called it Mission Family Resilience, a comprehensive approach to addressing the unique emotional and financial challenges veterans encounter in their personal lives. Legal proceedings continued, but they no longer consumed my entire existence. The case became a landmark discussion about veteran rights, about financial exploitation, about the complex dynamics of family relationships. Karen Lewis had transformed our personal struggle into a broader conversation about elder protection and veteran support. Michael's professional world continued to unravel. The tech industry, which had once celebrated his entrepreneurial spirit, now viewed him with suspicion. Investors withdrew. Professional networks fractured. The consequences of his actions extended far beyond our family dispute, becoming a cautionary tale about integrity and respect. Rachel attempted several reconciliation efforts, but they rang hollow. Her approaches were calculated, more about damage control than genuine emotional connection. I responded with the same strategic calm I had maintained throughout our confrontation. Firm, but not vengeful. Tom became an unexpected ally. His testimony had been crucial, but more importantly, he seemed genuinely committed to understanding the deeper dynamics of our family conflict. He began attending veteran support group meetings, seeking to understand the broader context of our experience. My volunteer work with veteran support programs took on new significance. Each week, I would share our story, not as a victim, but as a survivor who had found a path to healing. Other veterans found inspiration, discovered the possibility of standing up against familial manipulation while maintaining emotional integrity. Dr. Elena Martinez helped me navigate the complex emotional landscape of healing. Our sessions became less about processing trauma and more about understanding personal growth, about redefining family, about creating a new narrative of strength and resilience. Emma and Jack became my primary focus. Through carefully managed interactions, I worked to provide them with a perspective of love that transcended the family conflict. We created new traditions, new ways of connecting that were based on mutual respect and genuine emotional support. The financial restructuring became a blueprint for other veterans. Susan Martinez and I began developing resources to help veterans protect their financial independence. What had begun as a personal battle became a broader mission of empowerment and protection. My military training had always been about adaptability, about finding strength in challenging circumstances. Now, I applied those same principles to personal healing. Each day became a mission of reconstruction, of building a life defined by purpose and integrity. The veteran community became my true family. We created support networks that went beyond traditional support groups. We developed resources, shared experiences, created a system of mutual support that filled the emotional gaps left by biological family. Legal proceedings ultimately resulted in a comprehensive settlement that went beyond financial compensation. It became a statement about veteran rights, about the importance of recognizing the value of military service beyond the years of active duty. Michael and Rachel were required to attend family mediation sessions to undergo counseling that would help them understand the deeper implications of their actions. It wasn't about punishment, but about creating an opportunity for genuine understanding and potential healing. Tom's involvement became increasingly positive. He began working with veteran support programs, using his professional skills to develop resources for veterans facing family challenges. Our shared experience had transformed him in ways none of us could have anticipated. The local media coverage of our story sparked a broader national conversation. Veteran support organizations began developing more comprehensive resources for addressing family dynamics, financial protection, and emotional support for veterans. Emma and Jack became ambassadors of a new kind of family understanding. Through our relationship, they learned about respect, about integrity, about the true meaning of unconditional love. They began to see family not as a biological obligation, but as a choice of mutual support and genuine connection. My volunteer work expanded. We developed comprehensive training programs for families of veterans, resources that address the unique challenges of military service and its impact on family dynamics. What had begun as a personal struggle became a mission of broader social change. Dr. Martinez helped me understand that healing is not a destination, but a continuous journey. Each day became an opportunity for growth, for understanding, for creating a life defined by purpose and integrity. The financial resources I had fought to protect became a tool for broader change. I established a foundation focused on supporting veterans in transition, providing resources for emotional and financial support, creating opportunities for genuine connection and empowerment. Sarah Thompson and I continued to develop the Mission Family Resilience Program. What had begun as a personal response to family conflict became a comprehensive approach to supporting veterans in navigating complex personal challenges. As the years passed, I realized that the true victory was not in the legal proceedings or financial settlements. The real triumph was in reclaiming my narrative, in creating a life defined by purpose, integrity, and genuine connection. My children had thought they could reduce me to dead weight. Instead, they had unleashed a force of transformation more powerful than they could have ever imagined. 5 years had passed since that transformative Thanksgiving confrontation. The landscape of my life had changed more profoundly than I could have ever imagined during those long military deployments or in the challenging years of early retirement. The Mission Family Resilience Program had become a national initiative, expanding far beyond our initial vision. Veterans from across the country reached out, sharing stories of similar struggles, finding hope in our collective resilience. What had begun as a personal journey of healing had transformed into a movement of empowerment, challenging societal perceptions of veterans and family dynamics. Emma and Jack had become my greatest source of hope and inspiration. Now teenagers, they approached family and relationships with a wisdom far beyond their years. They understood that family is not about blood, but about genuine connection, respect, and unconditional support. Our monthly outings had evolved into deep conversations about life, service, and personal integrity. Tom had become an unexpected ally in veteran support. His professional skills and personal transformation led him to develop comprehensive resources for families navigating veteran reintegration. He had found a purpose beyond his previous corporate-driven existence, becoming a true advocate for veteran support. Michael's professional world had never fully recovered from the exposure of his financial manipulations. The tech industry, once his playground, had become a cautionary tale about the importance of integrity. He had been forced to rebuild his career from the ground up, learning hard lessons about respect and genuine achievement. Rachel's life had taken a more complicated path. The professional network she had so carefully cultivated had fragmented. Her attempts at professional reinvention were constantly overshadowed by the documented history of family exploitation. She had become a study in the long-term consequences of calculated manipulation. The Veteran Support Network had become my true family. We had created something far more profound than a support group. We had built a community of resilience, of mutual understanding, of genuine connection. Our monthly meetings were no longer just about sharing challenges, but about creating systemic change. My foundation had grown beyond my wildest expectations. We provided comprehensive support for veterans: financial, counseling, emotional support, family mediation resources. Each program was built on the fundamental belief that a veteran's worth extends far beyond their years of service. Dr. Elena Martinez continued to be a crucial ally. Our work together had expanded beyond individual therapy into developing comprehensive mental health resources specifically designed for veterans and their families. We were challenging traditional approaches to veteran support, creating more holistic, empowering models of healing. The legal proceedings had become a landmark case in veteran protection. Karen Lewis and I had worked together to develop new frameworks for protecting veterans from financial exploitation. Our story had sparked legislative discussions about veteran rights, about the importance of recognizing the ongoing value of military service. Emma and Jack had become advocates in their own right. They spoke at school events, participated in veteran support programs, helping to break down generational barriers and create new understanding. Their generation was learning that service is not just about military deployment, but about integrity, respect, and genuine human connection. Susan Martinez had transformed our initial forensic work into a comprehensive approach to financial protection for veterans. Our resources helped veterans navigate complex financial landscapes, protecting their hard-earned resources and ensuring their financial independence. The media coverage of our story had sparked a national conversation. Veteran support organizations, family counseling centers, legal institutions, all were reevaluating their approaches to veteran support. We had created a ripple effect of change that extended far beyond our personal experience. My volunteer work had become a full-time mission of transformation. Speaking engagements, support programs, legislative advocacy. Each opportunity was a chance to challenge societal perceptions of veterans, of aging, of family dynamics. Tom's involvement had become a powerful testament to personal transformation. He had become a leading voice in veteran family support, using his professional skills to develop resources that bridged the gap between military and civilian experiences. The Mission Family Resilience Program had expanded to include comprehensive support for veterans and their families. We offered resources for emotional support, financial protection, family mediation, and personal development. Each program was built on the fundamental belief that a veteran's worth extends far beyond their years of service. As I reflected on our journey, I realized that the true victory was not in the legal proceedings or financial settlements. The real triumph was in reclaiming our narrative, in creating a life defined by purpose, integrity, and genuine connection. To the listeners who have followed our story, who have seen the journey from vulnerability to empowerment, I offer this invitation. This is more than just a story. This is a movement of resilience, of hope, of transformation. If this story has touched you, if you've seen a reflection of your own struggles, your own potential for resilience, then I invite you to join us. Subscribe to our channel. Follow our mission. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it, because every voice matters. Every story of resilience has the power to create change. My children had thought they could reduce me to dead weight. Instead, they had unleashed a force of transformation more powerful than they could have ever imagined. This is not the end of the story. This is just the beginning. Subscribe now. Let's continue this journey together.